this debate shouldn't be personalised, and it should be about policy. Although it's worth saying, for the people who need the solutions, it's intensely personal. The people who are in homeless accommodation, the people who are on housing lists for more than a decade, the people in mortgage distress, the people priced out of the market, the people in overcrowded conditions, the people with 3 or 4 generations living in the one family, in the one house, the people in a very poor quality housing. It's very, very, very personal for them. And there's a lot of people in despair over their personal situations. I mean, I'm just dealing this week with a couple who have 8 kids, and they're in a HAP tenancy out in Clonee, even though, you know, with 8 kids you need family support. But they're from Dún Laoghaire, and they're out in Clonee in a HAP tenancy, and I think it's the 3rd HAP or RAS tenancy they've been in. There's a few 4-bedrooms finally come up in Dún Laoghaire, but it doesn't look like they're going to get one. I mean, we're pleading with the council that they'll get it, but it's not looking good at the moment, and they've been through a tough time. And that's just one story, you know, and I have dozens of them every week. So it's very personal for those people, and they need solutions. They need them fast, and they need them to be real solutions. And the problems, you know, Minister appealed for us not to be ideological, to be practical, and so on. That's reality there. Property pages, okay? That's Dún Laoghaire. That's Honey Park. And that was a NAMA site. And it was given back to Cosgrave. Cosgrave went into NAMA. We made the decision, yous made the decision, to give it back to Cosgrave. Paid them to build it out, and you know, they're the people who will make the money now, and that's what you've done with sites all over the place. The sale price for these apartments just finished is they're selling them to international investors, 214 apartments for €95 million. That's 440,000 per unit of an apartment for a 3-bedroom apartment. They're not that big. Not that big at all. Okay? And then you look at this, another property page. There's 3 or 4 blocks of them. A lot of them in Honey Park, but others all over the place. Been sold to international investment funds. Almost all of them from sites that were in public ownership, i.e. NAMA, given back to the developers. Those developers send them on to international investors. They're boasting, this particular crowd are boasting, over 1,600 apartments sold, total value 610 million, that's just under 400,000 a unit, okay? And then they're renting them back to people in Dún Laoghaire, 3-bedroom for the 3-bedroom between 2,400 a month and 2,800 a month. Quite a few of them are being rented back to Dún Laoghaire at Down County Council. Okay? This is a joke. It's a joke. Up the road, a bit more reality, Cherrywood was in the hands of NAMA, handed over to Hines. Hines have got loads of planning permissions, the value has gone up. They flipped some of it on to Cairn. They're talking about the 10% that they'll give in social housing. They were looking for prices for some of the units in excess of 400,000 to sell it back to the council for the 10%. For 400,000, when we had it in our ownership, in the state ownership, when it was in NAMA, when the prices were much lower. Okay, it's mad, right? It's mad, it's a heist. We give it to them for nothing, they sell it or rent it or lease it back to us for an absolute fortune. It's madness. So that's actual reality. Now, who can afford, Minister? Who can afford a rent of 2,400, 2,800? Who can afford to buy those individual units at 440,000 quid? Virtually nobody. Virtually none of the people who need, obviously people who need council housing can't afford it. The local authorities can't afford to buy it back at that price for social housing, and people, what, up to €80,000 a year can't afford that. I mean, I actually wonder who's buying it. Well, actually, we see who's buying it. Investors are buying it to rent it back at extortionate prices. And that makes you think, doesn't it, that the government says we need these people in the property market to help us. Actually, I think we want these people running out of the country screaming because we impose such heavy taxes on them and put such severe rent controls. They say, we're getting the hell out of here, because then the prices would actually drop. Right? We don't need them here. They're driving the prices through the roof. They are exploiting the crisis because they know the people they're going to rent to can't afford to buy at this level. They can charge them these rents. Right? That's the vicious circle we're in. Now, on the specific then of Part 5, I want to commend Deputy Bryn for bringing it forward. We proposed this in the motion that was defeated by the government. Fianna Fáil didn't vote for it. I criticised him heavily. He said he liked some of it, but not all of it. Okay, well, that's tit for tat. Tit for tat doesn't work. Not on this issue. But I want to say this, okay? There is a problem. The Minister does have a point. If you just do this, okay, and I think we should do this, is get it up. Our motion proposed minimum 20%. Social and affordable, and minimum 30% on strategic development zones in the motion during the summer. But there is a problem if that's all you do. So it's not enough, I'm afraid, Deputy O'Brien. Obviously, and I know you know this, we need 100,000 council houses on public land, and we have the land for it, as the central pillar of, over the next 5 years, to even begin to get near solving the problem, right? That's 20,000 a year, that's what we need. Anything less and we're in serious trouble. But in terms of the Part 5, there's a problem as well, even with this if it's done on its own. And the problem is that if we buy them back at these prices, right, which you have to under the Part 5 scheme, lease them or buy them, it'll cost the state a fortune. So we shouldn't buy the completed units. And this was the point Mel Reynolds made, and I really want to put this to all in the House, particularly to the Minister, but to all in the House. He said we should take the 10, 20 or 25 or 30%, whatever percentage it is, and I think 25 and 30 is a good percentage, we should take the land now and up front. Not the completed units whenever these speculators decide to build, and we don't know when they'll build. If you look at Cherrywood as an example, one of the biggest planned residential developments in the state, not a single unit built. They got it about 6 or 7 years ago from Namina, nothing built. Right? So we should take our chunk now, take a chunk near the entrance to Cherrywood, so we avoid any of the servicing problems and so on, take it near the entrance and build our bit now. And that means we can build it at a much cheaper price, Count Corley. So we can build it, the state can build at about 200, maybe 250,000 or less, between 170 and 220,000 on the land. If you buy the land, it's relatively cheap. If you wait for them to give you the completed units, you'll be waiting forever and you'll pay a fortune when it arrives. Right? So that's what we should do. On all of these sites, strategic development zone sites or whatever, take the land now so it becomes public land, build at the price we can build at, which will be cheaper, and we will deliver the units, faster. So that's a very serious practical proposal. Whatever percentage is agreed on this, that would make a huge difference. It would accelerate things, and it would, if you like, collapse the dichotomy that Deputy O'Brien and the Minister himself were proposing in terms of the impacts on price and so on. Because it wouldn't be, sorry, your reliance on the private sector, your criticism, this is reliance on we wouldn't be relying on the private sector, because we would be taking it, it would become public sector. Okay? Okay, great. Right, excellent. So you're going to champion this policy.
But then why are you...
I'm running out of time now, Dara. Yeah. So that's a serious proposal, Minister, and I would like to hear a response from you on it, but that would make a big difference. If not, I'd like you to explain how we're going to get these people on these strategic developments. And very last, in 10 seconds, I just want to say this on social mix. Really, it is a bit rich, Minister, right? On public sites, you want to sell off 30% public to private because we have to have social mix. But on the private sites, we can only have 10%. So the social mix is different because it's a private site. That's not a serious notion of private mix. That's just a covering for the fact that we're allowing the private sector to dictate housing.